Kendrick Lamar just did something so small that it almost slipped past the internet. And somehow that is exactly why it hit so hard. Because this is not a man who just posts. By the way, welcome to Celebrity Rap Life, where the spotlight never fades, comebacks are built from chaos, and every headline tells a deeper story. Like, subscribe, and stay locked in because the story is about to unfold. This is not an artist who casually opens his phone, records something, uploads it, and keeps scrolling. That is not how Kendrick Lamar moves. That has never been how he moves. Every appearance, every word, every silence, every absence has always carried weight. So when he shows up unexpectedly, even for something that looks simple on the surface, it immediately demands a second look. And this time, what he showed up for wasn't an album. It wasn't a rollout. It wasn't a response to a feud. It wasn't even a cryptic teaser designed to send fans into theory mode. It was a birthday. A real one. A small one. A personal one. Kendrick Lamar recorded a video wishing a child a happy birthday. The son of two T's, someone rooted in Top Dog Entertainment, the same circle that helped shape Kendrick from a promising voice into one of the most important artists of his generation. These are not loose industry ties. These are people who came up together, built together, struggled together, and eventually changed the sound of modern hip-hop together. So when Kendrick pressed record, this was not for optics. This was not for engagement. This was not for a timeline. This was for family. And that is where the story actually begins. Because the internet saw the video and reacted the way the internet always does when it encounters something soft from someone it usually reads as intense. People called it wholesome. People called it adorable. People shared it with captions about how refreshing it is to see someone like Kendrick in that light. And none of that is wrong, but it is incomplete. Because what makes this moment land is not just that Kendrick Lamar wished a kid a happy birthday. It is that he chose to show up at all, in a space he has spent his entire career avoiding. And he did it for something that had no return on investment. No streams attached, no headlines engineered, no narrative being pushed forward. Just presence. That alone would have been enough. But then came the detail that quietly shifted the entire weight of the moment. He shouted out the kid's baseball team. Not vaguely, not in a general, keep working hard type of message. He referenced it specifically, like someone who actually knew, like someone who had paid attention, like someone who had heard about it before and held on to that information long enough to bring it back at the exact moment it would matter most. And that is where everything changes. Because now this is no longer just a celebrity doing something kind. This is evidence of something deeper. This is proof of proximity, proof of attention. Proof that Kendrick Lamar, despite existing at a level of fame that separates most people from the ordinary details of life, is still grounded enough to notice those details in someone else's world. That does not happen by accident. That is not something you fake in a 30-second clip. That is something that only shows up when a person is genuinely present in the lives of the people around them. And that presence stands in direct contrast to the version of Kendrick Lamar that has been built up by fans, critics, and the entire ecosystem that surrounds him. The myth version of Kendrick is calculated, strategic, always 10 steps ahead. A man who does nothing without purpose, who speaks in layers, who moves in silence because silence itself is part of the plan. And to be fair, that version exists for a reason. This is the same artist who can disappear for years and return with a body of work that reshapes conversations across music, culture, and identity. The same artist who has stood on the biggest stages in the world and delivered performances that feel less like entertainment and more like statements. The same artist whose catalog is studied, dissected, and reinterpreted constantly. So people assume everything is intentional. Everything is part of something bigger. Everything is leading somewhere. But then, a moment like this cuts through all of that. Because there's no visible strategy here. There's no rollout hidden inside a birthday message. There's no coded announcement buried in a shout-out to a baseball team. This is not a score of measurable gain that comes from posting a video like this. It's just presence. And that is exactly why makes it powerful. It reminds people that before the analysis, before the awards, before the headlines, Kendrick Lamar is still just a person who cares about the people in his life, a person who shows up, a person who remembers, a person who takes a moment out of whatever level of global significance he operates on and uses it to make sure a child feels seen on his birthday. That is not something the industry trains you to do. That is not something fame naturally encourages. If anything, the higher someone climbs, the easier it becomes to lose touch with those small, grounded interactions. The world gets bigger, the responsibilities get heavier, the distance between everyday life and celebrity life stretches wider and wider until those two realities barely overlap anymore. But this moment shows that Kendrick has not let that distance fully take over. He still exists in both spaces. He can headline a Super Bowl and still know what team a kid plays for. He can carry the weight of an entire culture's expectations and still pause long enough to record a message that was never meant for the culture at all. And that balance is rare. It's rare because it requires intention of a different kind, not the strategic, career-driven intention people usually associate with artists at his level, but a personal intention, a decision to remain connected, a refusal to let scale erase the small things. And in a time where everything is measured in numbers, that kind of intention stands out. Because there is no metric for this. You can't quantify what it means for a kid to receive a birthday message from someone like Kendrick. You can't track the impact of hearing your favorite artist not only say your name, but acknowledge something specific about your life. You can't reduce that to engagement or impressions or reach. It exists entirely outside of that system. And yet, ironically, it's the kind of moment that resonates far beyond it, because people recognize authenticity when they see it. Even in a space as crowded and performative as the internet, there are still moments that cut through, moments that don't feel staged or optimized or engineered for reaction, moments that feel real. This was one of those moments, and it landed the way it did because it revealed something that no album, no interview, no carefully structured rollout ever could. It showed Kendrick Lamar without the layers. No themes, no metaphors, no narrative arcs. Just a voice, a face, and a message meant for one person. And somehow, by being that specific, it became universal. Because everyone understands what it means to be remembered. Everyone understands what it means for someone to notice the details of your life and bring them back to you at the right time. Everyone understands how much weight a small gesture can carry when it's rooted in genuine care. So even though the video was not meant for the public, the feeling behind it translated instantly. It reminded people of something simple that often gets lost in conversations about greatness, that greatness does not only exist in the big moments. It does not only show up in award speeches or historic performances or chart records. Sometimes it shows up in the quiet decisions, in the choice to be present, in the choice to pay attention, in the choice to use your voice, no matter how powerful it is, for something that does not benefit you at all. And that is where this moment lingers. Because long after the reactions fade and the video stops circulating, what remains is the image of Kendrick Lamar choosing people over platform, choosing connection over visibility, choosing to be a part of someone's real life instead of just existing as a figure in their imagination. There's no rollout attached to that, no teaser, no follow-up. Just a moment that happened, was shared, and now exists as a quiet piece of evidence about who he is when nothing is being asked of him. And maybe that's why it feels so significant. Because in an era where everything is documented, everything is curated, and everything is positioned for maximum impact, it's becoming harder to find moments that aren't trying to be anything more than what they are. This was one of those moments. Uncomplicated, unpolished, uncalculated. And because of that, it said more than most carefully planned appearances ever could. Kendrick Lamar will release music again. He will step back onto massive stages. He will deliver verses that get analyzed line by line and performances that get replayed for years. All of that is inevitable. But this moment exists outside of that timeline. It's not part of a chapter. It's not a preview of what's next. It's just a glimpse of what's always there, whether people are looking or not. A reminder that the person behind the artistry is still grounded in something real, still connected, still paying attention. And maybe that's the most important thing to understand about Kendrick Lamar right now. Not what he's about to do, not what he might release, not what theories can be built from his silence, but what he chose to do when none of that was required. He showed up for a birthday. He remembered a baseball team, and in doing that, he quietly reaffirmed everything the music has been saying all along, without needing a single bar to explain it. Welcome to the culture. Hit subscribe, stay curious, and never stop listening.